As you know, about 200 farmer unions are being stopped by the administration from reaching Delhi in their Delhi Chalo march using barricades, iron nails, and drones capable of dropping tear gas on the Shambhu border. But that is not the part of the news I am here to talk about. The government has decided to unplug the internet in 7 districts of Haryana, and several Twitter or X accounts have been withheld in India. Now, surprise, surprise, this is very unlikely to pass the muster of constitutionality. The internet services have been suspended by an order of the Haryana government's Department of Home Affairs under Rule 2 of the Temporary Suspension of the Telecom Services Public Emergency or Public Safety Rules of 2017. The answer to why it is unlikely to be constitutional is that the order says that the reason for the shutdown is, quote, spread of misinformation and rumors through various social media platforms, and for facilitation and mobilizations of mobs and agitators and demonstrators who can cause serious damage to public and private properties. Besides being obviously vague and with no report of any incident or other evidence of a threat to public order or misinformation, the reason by itself fails the proportionality test under the Anuradha Bhasin judgment. Now, what is the Anuradha Bhasin judgment? I am glad that I asked and you're still here watching this video. Tell me if you're leaving in the comments so it will hurt my feelings. So the law is that the internet vanishes on 4th August 2019 and the movement is restricted for journalists in Kashmir. So Anuradha Bhasin, a journalist, cannot publish or distribute her newspaper or an edition of it in Srinagar. She filed a writ petition before the Supreme Court, जिसके बाद a 3-judge bench passed a 130 pages का judgment confirming that the freedom to practice any profession or carry on any trade or business or occupation over the medium of the internet enjoys a constitutional protection under Article 19(1)A and Article 19(1)G. Article 19(1)A gives you and me the fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression, and Article 19(1)G gives you the fundamental right to carry out any occupation, trade or profession in the country. आगे लिखा है that the restriction on such fundamental rights should be in consonance with the mandate under Article 19(2) and 6 of the Constitution, inclusive of the test of proportionality. Article 19(2) and 6 impose reasonable restrictions on the freedom of speech and occupation, including but not limited to the interest of sovereignty and integrity of the state or public order. The others are written on the screen. You can pause and read or open the Constitution. Not important. Judgment में काफी सीधा explanation है of what is meant by proportionality as well. You must not use a steam hammer to crack a nut if a nutcracker would do. मतलब तलवार से नाखून काटने की जरूरत नहीं है. Here is another definition from the judgment of proportionality जो ज़्यादा direct है. By proportionality, we mean the question of whether, while regulating exercise of fundamental rights, the appropriate or least restrictive choice of measures has been made by the legislature or the administrator so as to achieve the object of legislation or the purpose of administrative order, as the case may be. It is unlikely that this test of proportionality is met in this case. But we will find out anyway when the Punjab and Haryana High Court hears the petition reportedly filed against the internet shutdowns and the restriction on the movement. Now, about withholding these Twitter accounts, at least on my end of communications, it has had a 404, where the blocking orders.pdf for the Twitter accounts were not found. Freedom of expression over a political issue has been curtailed and no disclosure as to why it has been made by the government, restricting the concerned person's right to appeal in these blocking orders. The sad thing is that none of this is a new problem at all. And more qualified and experienced people than me have spoken at length about it on the internet. For example, here is a video of Advocate Apar Gupta, at the time the executive director of IFF, from December 2019, talking about the government that has been passing templated orders and restricting the public's fundamental right to free speech and expression and the right to occupation, trade and commerce arbitrarily by shutting down the internet. This was after the internet went out in New Delhi for about 4 hours in 2019. Here's Sukhnit Kaur from the Internet Freedom Foundation talking about the same thing in 2021, shortly after the internet shutdowns during the first farmer protests. Then there's Tanmay Singh, the senior litigation counsel at IFF, talking about the same thing after the internet was shut down in Punjab last year during the hunt for separatists. Here's me from another life sometime this year talking about the Supreme Court issuing notice in a miscellaneous application in the Anuradha Bhasin case by one of the original petitioners after Advocate Vrinda Bhandari told the court about an RTI response that revealed that officials past the internet suspension orders had not even heard about the Supreme Court judgment. As on December 7th, the Supreme Court was not inclined to hear this application and it was dismissed as withdrawn on the said date. If that's not enough, the 2023 Transparency Report, the Strategic Litigation Report, and the Policy Intervention Report published by the Internet Freedom Foundation show that the IFF had to file RTIs and write letters and work litigations against arbitrary internet shutdowns in the country. There's also keepusonline.in, where the IFF has closely studied and published information on how templated orders kept the internet down in Manipur for more than 100 days. Despite the fact that Anuradha Bhasin clearly states an order suspending the internet services indefinitely is impermissible under the Temporary Suspension of Telecom Services Public Emergency or Safety or Public Service Rules 2017. Suspension can only be utilized for temporary durations only. According to this accessnow.org report, India has had the most internet shutdowns in the world for the 5th year in a row last year. This report has been cited by headlines in Reuters, DW, CNN, India Today, The Hindu Business, and the New Times Express. And to think all of this could very well be counterproductive. An empirical study published in 2019 shows that the internet suspensions and cutting communications incentivize disorganized violence. And the economic loss in this kind of depression causes digital India, where tech startups are gasping for sustainable profit margins, to be at least undesirable. Last but not least, memes कैसे भेजेगा public? सोचा है कभी? Remember that Internet Freedom Foundation did the footwork on analyzing and compiling all these internet suspension orders, filed RTI applications seeking accountability from the authorities, wrote letters to the authorities expressing concerns as policy interventions, and helped produce this video. Please consider helping them with their efforts in fighting internet shutdowns by donating today.